All right, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for being here today. My name is Adalia Espinosa. I am one of the career counselors with University Careers Services. I'm excited to be here today to speak with each of you about how to connect virtually with an industry professional. This topic is actually quite common, but especially as of recent events has really encouraged us to use virtual methods in order to network and connect with different professionals. And if you see in this title, it does say on here industry professional, but it also does include how to connect with professionals in general. So I'm hoping today that we cover a lot of what you already introduced or included in the chat. So let's go ahead and get started. A few things that we're going to be covering today. So here's our agenda. I'm going to be speaking briefly on the University Career Services that we are offering to students entirely virtually. So I'll cover a little bit of those as well as Cougar Pathway. We're going to be discussing some of what your goals might be for wanting to connect and network virtually. I'll speak on 4 different methods that you could connect, how to prepare for each, and that includes etiquette, like the student was asking about. What to do after connecting, and then also what not to do. So this lays out our agenda for today. So what are some of the virtual services that we are offering at Career Services this summer? So some of you may be familiar already because you've used it, or maybe you've never heard of it. If you are wanting drop-in hours, which is kind of like when you would step into our office to have a quick 15-minute drop-in, we have virtual chats that are exactly the same format, only virtually. And so you can actually log into our website every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday this entire summer to have a virtual chat. You log into our website and then you'll see this red button where it says Get Help Live Chat, and you can actually chat with a career counselor. They'll be able to assist you with things like getting your resume approved or maybe giving you some feedback on your resume so that it can get approved. And this can be done, like I said, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 1 o'clock through 4 o'clock. And yeah, so those are really helpful and quick ways to have a question answered. If you're looking for something a little bit more in depth, we also are still having all of our career counseling appointments. These are 30-minute long appointments, and they're being done virtually all summer long. So each counselor might want to do maybe through Microsoft Teams or through Zoom. Either way, you can schedule it on Cougar Pathway, and then your career counselor will approve and send you your link to let you know how you can meet with them virtually. And this right here is a picture of me with a student during a counseling appointment. And last but not least, our workshops and events are going to be virtual for the remainder of this summer. And I'm going to talk a little bit about a couple of those upcoming workshops that we have going on. Just note that RSVP is required for each of these so that we can send you our Microsoft Teams access code. Just like we did this morning, you'll receive the link so that you can log in. Okay, so I mentioned some upcoming workshops. You already know that one of them is happening today, this top one. This is our kickoff workshop for the summer. And you can see right here some of our upcoming workshops. So we have all types of different relevant topics, how to interview virtually. This one is specifically targeted for graduate students. So my MED student from earlier, this one's going to be a great one for you. Anxiety management and job search tips. And we have it separate for graduating seniors and also for anyone who might be going through a career transition right now. And all types of workshops as well, specifically targeting international students or even first-gen students. So please take a look at those on our website just to see if you want to sign up for other ones. And just remember to RSVP for those. Okay. And now briefly, I'm going to cover some things that can be done through Cougar Pathway. Students, you can log into Cougar Pathway by logging into your Access UH. It's one of the squares on that main website. This is where you can search and apply for on-campus jobs, off-campus jobs, internships, part-time and full-time jobs. And you'll see recently we have a few postings on there that are from this current month. So for any of you who are looking for companies with immediate hiring needs right now, I would suggest looking at any postings that were posted maybe in the last month or so. You can also schedule your on-campus interview. So if you are already in contact with a company through Cougar Pathway, this is how they can schedule an interview with you. And this is, of course, how you can RSVP or sign up for any workshops. We have events called employer meet and greets and different career fairs. Of course, all done virtually, but this is how you can RSVP for those. All right, so we're going to jump right in. Before I begin, I want to cover what some of our learning objectives are for this presentation. So at the end of this presentation, I'm hoping that each of you are able to identify a couple professionals who are already in your network. And then two, I'm hoping that you all are able to learn some strategies as well as etiquette that you can utilize right away for before, during, and after you virtually connect with a professional. If you don't already have a pen and paper, I would love to encourage each of you to go and grab something to write with. It can be in your phone notes section, or it can be just regular old pen and paper, because there's going to be a couple opportunities for you to do, for you to write down a couple opportunities and goals for yourself, because I'm hoping that this presentation gives you some tools to develop an action plan. And then, as always, please engage in today's workshop by writing down any of your responses on your pen and paper or asking questions in the chat box. All right, so now we can begin. So starting off with, what are some common reasons to virtually connect? I'd like for each of you to really think about what are some of your current goals right now. Whatever your goals are, that could be the reason that you want to connect with someone within the industry or just a professional in general so that you can gain some support. So take a moment. I'm leaving it blank for right now. I want you to take a moment and in your pen and paper, write down what a goal might be. And this can be very unique and specific to you. So, so take a quick moment to do that, and then I'll share a couple. So some of you who are attending this workshop today, your goals for wanting to connect virtually might just be so that you can learn about what some of the daily responsibilities, challenges, or even how to enter a specific occupation. That could be one of your goals. Others could be seeking mentorship. Maybe you are looking for getting a really great mentor so that you can gain professional support. Maybe you're seeking potential opportunities so that you can gain experience. That could be some of your goals. Or maybe you simply want to know and find out whether or not this profession that you're wanting to explore fits your interests, personality, and skills. So you want to chat with someone so you can find out. So these 4 bullets right here, these are some of the common themes and trends that we notice anytime students want to connect with someone or network with a professional. And so these are really great goals. If you're kind of in between 1 or 2, that's great too. Write a couple of these down because it is important as we move forward when you start reaching out to professionals to know exactly what your goals are. And I do say exactly, but it's okay if those goals adjust or change, but it is important to know what your goals are before reaching out and cold calling. So this is one of the most common questions that we receive at Career Services. How do I identify a professional in my network? What do I do if I feel like I don't know someone, or maybe I don't feel confident reaching out to a professional just yet? So I want to empower everyone to know that you actually have some professionals already built into your network. They can be people such as your professors. Oftentimes they tend to already have industry experience, or maybe they are currently industry professionals who happen to teach at UH in addition to their current jobs, maybe as researchers or as practitioners. And so please feel free to reach out to those professors and build those relationships with them. If you happen to know of an alumni, who is within your circle, maybe they've come to a workshop for you, or maybe they've come to one of your organization meetings. These are really great people because they, again, have been in your shoes. You could also reach out to a current or a former supervisor. Any guest speakers from classes who came and spoke on something specific in your industry. And many of you might even have a mentor who you can rely on, who you can count on and call for advice. Oftentimes they have a wealth of information and experience. So these are really great people to have in your corner. So I want you to take a moment now, and with your pen and paper, I want you to write down, using these areas right here. I want you to take a minute to identify maybe one or two people who fall within these categories for the ones shown right now, and see if you can identify one or two different people in your network. Take a quick moment. Now, in addition to these 5 that I've offered right here, in this little square right here in the corner, I've included just an additional list because, of course, the first one is not all encompassing. You might even want to reach out to a current graduate student, virtually connecting with people so that you can learn about graduate school, maybe law school programs, any professional programs. These are graduate students are really great people to reach out to as well, because they could also have industry experience or also experience applying to and entering a program. A trusted professional. So again, if you are wanting to reach out to an employer, maybe you want to reach out to a recruiter or someone who is currently within the industry, who maybe it doesn't work at UH, but they work outside and they're currently within the industry. And so one really great method would be to do that through LinkedIn. So these are really great practices for you to start building up your professional network. A contact from student organizations. And then the last one, which is bolded right now, for many students, they might not feel confident to reach out directly. And so I like to recommend that if you already have a strong relationship with, let's say, a supervisor, who you know that they have a strong connection to somebody or to many people, you could professionally ask if you can be referred to someone. So again, building up that relationship with someone who is in your network to say, hey, I would love to get a chance to speak with so-and-so. Do you happen to know someone who you could refer me to? Is a really great and professional way to build up and identify a professional. So now jumping into a couple of methods for connecting. So I'm suggesting 4 methods, but of course it's never exhaustive. So these are just 4 tried and true methods for connecting, especially in this day and age of virtual networking. And so I have here, and I'm going to discuss each one in depth so that way you can feel confident knowing how to conduct these, but also the etiquette for each one of these. So you want to so you see here that I have a phone meeting, which is really simple. It's a quick phone call. It can be anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes, and it's really easy to do, right? Really easy to incorporate into a professional's busy schedule. We have something called an informational interview, which I'll go in depth into each one. Virtual mentorship, and then also a virtual job shadow. So we're going to jump into each one. Please feel free, if you have some questions right now, to jump into the chat box. And then for your pen and paper, write down maybe 1 or 2 of these that that you feel confident or comfortable wanting to implement as we go along. So as always, preparation is key. You want to make sure that you're going into each one of these fully prepared beforehand, so that way while it's happening and even after, you are demonstrating professionalism and preparation. All right, so before connecting virtually, there's a few tips that I want to share with each of you about what to do beforehand. All right, so you want to research the occupation and the industry beforehand, mostly because you want to have some questions prepared. And so do some research, some preliminary research, so that way, as you have set up this this appointment with this professional, you're ready with some questions and you can go further in depth versus asking foundational questions that you can research yourself. Nico, can you turn it down a little bit? Thank you, buddy. Second, you want to set additional time in your schedule in order to let them know, here's my block of time where I'm available, so that way they can let you know if it matches with your time as well. As I mentioned earlier, you really want to reflect on your own goals are, especially for this conversation. If you are able to confirm an appointment with someone, that conversation, you want it to flow with what your goals are and what your questions are. So you want to reflect on that beforehand, as well as what skills you want to develop and hope to devote some time towards. And then lastly, before you connect, you want to be able to send out a professional email request with a suggested method of connecting virtually. So I am going to provide everyone with a template. So when I get to that slide, please feel free to take a photo with your phone or maybe even a screenshot from your computer, so that way you can have that template as a guide, and feel free to adjust as needed. So right here is a nice little email template. Again, this is just to start you off. Please feel free to make it your own. But you do want to start off with hello, first and last name. Introduce yourself. My name is Joe Garcia. I'm a journalism major in my 3rd year at the University of Houston. And then this second sentence is really important. You could say, I was referred to reach out to you by Dr. Tiffany Bidding. Again, referrals are really important and they're also really useful. You may not always have a referral, but it is important to know how you found out about that person. So maybe if you don't have a referral, you could say, I really enjoyed the speech you gave when you were a guest speaker in my course this past spring, or thank you so much for the wonderful article which I read in the Houston Chronicle, or whatever it might be. So again, make sure that you include how you found out about them or how you connected. The reason I'm reaching out to you is because I'm pursuing a career in blank, and I would love to chat with a professional who does this type of work as a career. If your schedule permits in the upcoming month, I would love the opportunity to virtually connect to learn more about blank. And this is where you want to be specific about what your goals are. Whether you want to learn about the profession, or maybe you want to ask some advice, whatever your goal is. If you're available, I'm able to virtually connect. And then this is where you're letting them know what your format is going to be. So here I'm saying via phone, or on, or through Zoom or Microsoft Teams on any Monday or Wednesday from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. And so here I'm listing my availability. And if you notice, it's a large window, so that way the professional who might have a busy schedule can look at their schedule and say, I have a small hour-long window on Wednesday at 3 o'clock. Excuse me. I look forward to hearing from you soon, and please let me know if I can answer any questions. Thank you for the consideration, and then your signature. Please be sure to include your first and last name. You could list your major as well as University of Houston. And if you happen to have an internship that would be relevant, or if you have a title that could be relevant, include that. But major and university is perfectly fine. Please feel free to take a screenshot of this or a photo with your phone. And then, of course, use this as your template, but also make it your own. All right, so moving on, we're going to transition into etiquette. So with phone meeting etiquette, again, like I mentioned earlier, a phone meeting it's really it's going to require just an active conversation, which includes active listening. And so the etiquette for this one is you want to make sure that you're confirming your time and then the format. So just wanted to confirm our phone meeting tomorrow at such and such. So you want to confirm that the day before, ideally in the morning, so that way they have enough time to read your email and confirm with you. Have a list of 5 to 7 questions. Again, since you're on the phone, you're able to look down at your notes and take notes as well. So have those questions prepared. Really important, just like in any interview setting or even in virtual formats, you want to convey your personality, your enthusiasm, as well as your professionalism all through your tone of voice, especially since they're not there in person, face to face, to see that you are enthusiastic to learn more. So you want to show it through your voice. And that part is critical to make sure that you stay engaged. But it also shows respect for the person's time, that you're there to learn and want to know more. And then, of course, listen actively. As you're learning more information, ask follow-up questions. You can write a couple notes down and then ask a follow-up to really showcase that you're actively listening. Please feel free to drop a question into the chat box if you have any, specifically regarding phone meeting, etiquette, if I didn't cover it. And if you are wondering, or if this is one of the formats that you'd like to try out, write that down in your notes as well, so that way this could be one format that you want to try out. So moving on to informational interview etiquette. That title, informational interview, is it's what we call, meeting with someone to ask the question where you're just getting information from someone. The word interview can sometimes feel like there's high stakes or there's something on the line, but when it's informational, it becomes low stakes because you're really just wanting to find out some extra information. These can be done with someone that you may know or may not know. And so again, if you wanted to reach out to someone who is a industry professional, someone who maybe an employer, someone who you met at a career fair, or maybe it is a professor, you can do informational interviews for someone you do or do not know. And so here I have a picture of a Zoom call, which is a really great way to conduct an informational interview without having to meet in person over coffee, which is one of the traditional formats. So etiquette. Once again, you want to confirm the call the day before, whether it's you who sends out a Zoom link or the person themselves, if they have a Zoom account or whatever format they use. You do want to make sure that you have the way of connecting, maybe possibly the day before. Just some general tips. You want to set up a quiet area with good lighting and a simple background, because again, you're still demonstrating a lot of your own characteristics through this virtual call. Only instead of doing it over the phone, they can now see your surroundings. So you want to go in prepared. Just like before, you want to have your relevant questions prepared. And then, of course, wear appropriate attire based on the nature of the meeting. And so appropriate attire for an informational interview, again, informational, it could be business casual. I'm wearing a business casual top today, where it's a floral shirt. I don't have a blazer for this, and mostly because it's informational. This is a presentation, a workshop. However, if I was in an interview setting where there are high stakes, that's where I would wear the blazer. However, it's up to you. If you feel comfortable wearing a blazer, you can do that as well. I would avoid going into casual or just t-shirt, especially if you're meeting with someone whose attire is more professional. Now, just like in a phone meeting, you want to still convey your personality, enthusiasm, etc., but in your tone, but the difference is now you also have body language to pay attention to as well. So pay close attention to your own body language, whether you are demonstrating excitement or taking notes, such like this, or if you are wanting to demonstrate that you're listening intently by maintaining some eye contact, which is kind of strange since we're using a webcam. So again, just some tips. I hear someone unmuted, so if someone has a question, feel free to jump in.
Well, I see a question in the chat, so I will put that one in, but if anybody else has one after that, they can also unmute themselves. So the one in the chat is, how do you politely end a phone meeting when you have no more questions to ask?
That is a really great question. A phone meeting specifically, again, since you're not face-to-face, you can really end this enthusiastically by showing gratitude and for the professional taking some time. So it could be as simple as, thank you so much. I feel like that answers most of my questions, but I really appreciate that you took some time today to answer them. And then after showing that gratitude, it's important to also offer something in return, which we're going to get to in a few slides later. So that'll be a really key component that you'll want to include after you say thanks. So I'll get to that part in a second. Thank you for that question. All right, if anyone else has a question, you can unmute or drop it into the chat. So thank you, Jamie. All right, transitioning into virtual mentoring. Now this one is a little bit tricky and it does have a few additional best practices and different etiquette. So I'm gonna go through this one, but if you do have specific questions or you've wanted to ask someone to be your mentor, and we might not cover it all today, please feel free to reach out for this one because this one requires just a little bit more additional work. So I'll cover it briefly. But with virtual mentoring, this is usually with someone that you do know and maybe have a previous relationship with. Again, mentors could be someone that that you sign up for, or it could be someone who you admire and you want to gain some professional support from. But one of the #1 rules for mentoring etiquette is that you formally ask for their mentorship. Many times professionals, they have a desire to want to give back and help and mentor someone. However, it is almost like an unwritten rule that that one should definitely ask for their mentorship. So you want to be sure to formally ask. And again, if you need assistance with that, please feel free to set up an appointment. We're more than happy to coach on how to ask someone for mentorship. After you've asked and if they have agreed to be your mentor, step 2, another unwritten rule, is that you provide 1 to 2 structured goals for their mentorship. Again, you want to make sure that if they are giving you something, whether it's their knowledge or their experience, that you're going in with some structure and some thoughtfulness. So providing that 1 to 2 1 or 2 goals to help guide those conversations. I'm going to recommend also that you request that the professional schedule some reoccurring meetings. Again, it will be dependent on their schedule or their responsibilities, but if you are able to schedule some reoccurring meetings, this is a really great way to ensure that you are meeting periodically. And it doesn't have to be once a week. It doesn't have to be once every 2. It can be anywhere from once a month, maybe every other month, something where you have something to look forward to and also something to discuss at your next meeting. And so again, that's a really great practice. And then you want to be prepared for those meetings so that way you can respect and honor their time. The one thing you would never want to do is go into that reoccurring meeting with very little to talk about, especially if they have agreed to be your mentor. And this kind of segues into one of my later slides, but if someone has offered their mentorship, you want to be able to offer something in return. So offer, and that could look all kinds of different ways, but offer to support the professional in return for their guidance. Moving on to a virtual job shadow. This is a unique one because it's not necessarily the same thing as an internship, unpaid or paid. A job shadow can sometimes be a 1 day or even a very short amount of time. But I have seen different variations of a virtual job shadow. And so I found it to be a really unique method to gain some connections with someone where you're still able to learn something in return. And so here the etiquette will be within your email, of course, to request to shadow, which essentially is sharing screens, in order for you to view a specific and an appropriate task that is relevant to their job. And so this could be a really neat way if you, let's say, are in marketing and design. If you're able to confirm a meeting with someone who does this for a living, you can ask them, hey, I would love to shadow one of your upcoming projects and share screen so that I can see the ins and outs of how you do your work. Again, this is very niche and it's quite unique as well. But I think if done properly and professionally, it can be a really great way for you to learn a lot of tricks in the trade. As you're doing this, you want to participate actively and also take notes because you might be gaining some different technical skills or have the chance to ask about those specific skills. So ask questions, of course. And then lastly, if you have a special skill that's relevant to the work that you're shadowing, it's never a bad idea to at least volunteer to support on a project. They may, they have full right to say yes or no to your offer, but it never hurts for you to say, I'd love to support. So if you need an additional volunteer or an extra pair of eyes, please let me know. And then it puts the control on them or the offer on them to respond. All right, so that's where that was the fourth method for virtually connecting with different industry professionals. And so we're going to now jump into what to do after you virtually connect with someone. And so it's 12:34 now, which means we might end at 12:45. So I'll leave the last 15 minutes for any questions that maybe I didn't get to. So let's jump into it. What do I hear a question?
There is one. I think it could wait until the end since we have extra time. So it's up to you if you want it now or if you want to wait.
I can't see the question. So Jamie, what do you think?
It's a quick one. So they are asking for virtual mentoring questions. Can they make an appointment with the career counselor through Cougar Pathway? So my guess is the answer is yes, but I'll let you expand on that if you want.
Yeah, absolutely. If you have specific questions for virtual mentoring and you want to maybe get some coaching on how to ask or what to say, what that could look and feel like and prep for it, absolutely log into your Cougar Pathway and schedule an appointment with your counselor. And again, for those of you, if you are logging in right now simultaneously and if you happen to not see availability, log in again today, tomorrow, later on, just to see because we're constantly posting new appointments weekly. Thank you for that question. All right, so what do I do after I have virtually connected with someone? Maybe I just got done having my informational interview with an alumni who came to speak at my class last semester. After you connect virtually, the best etiquette that we like to recommend is that you send a thank you email to them and include a detail about something that you learned from that occasion. So if you spoke to that alumni, being able to articulate what it was that you valued from the conversation, or something that maybe you learned and hope to implement right away. All of those things are really great to read, because it really validates the person who helped you in saying that their support helped you along your journey as well. So sending that thank you email, but being specific. Additionally, you want to stay engaged on LinkedIn. So if you weren't already connected with them on LinkedIn or different, or not different platforms, but LinkedIn is the professional platform to connect on, you want to engage with them. So whether that is, liking their posts or commenting or messaging appropriately, that is going to be a really great way to stay connected. This is critical, but offering to support in any relevant opportunities is a really nice way to make sure that your connecting is mutually beneficial. So of course, the professional who you reach out to is usually helping you. And so it can often feel one-sided. So you want to, we at UCS, we want to highly encourage that you are offering any of your support, your skills, your experiences in any relevant opportunities that may come up. And that could look like in your email, you could say, please let me know if I can support in any upcoming opportunities that we discussed earlier in our call. So being specific. And then, pending that the relationship that you are building is professional and, again, mutually beneficial, that's where you could potentially ask them to refer you to any helpful opportunities that they may know about. So again, you never want to strictly go into one of these methods solely so that you can get a job opportunity out of it. Or so that you can get an internship from it only, because again, that could appear very one-sided. So after you've really developed that relationship, you may ask them to refer you to any opportunities if they come across their way. This is a really great segue. What not to do. I already mentioned a couple before, but you do not want to ask the professional during your informational interview or your virtual job shadow or whichever you select. You don't want to ask them for a job or an internship. These are not the time. It's not the time or place, but it's also not the format for you to ask for a job or internship. It could be read as unprofessional or as seeking something from them versus wanting to really learn from them. So do not persistently request a meeting after they have declined or not responded. Many times, if you are reaching out using the email that I provided earlier, they may or may not respond right away, or they may even say no. While I typically say if they haven't responded in a week, it is appropriate for you to follow up. That usually means one time. You want to follow up politely and say, hi, good morning. I just wanted to follow up. I never heard back. I'd love to know if you would have time to chat with me. But again, not being persistent, it could be perceived poorly. You do not want to leverage their position for something else that you're interested in. Kind of refers to bullet number 1. If you happen to know that there are some job opportunities, you don't want to leverage them or pressure them into something, because again, it could appear as if you've been using or taking advantage of their position. And then the last bullet, you do not want to create a one-sided interaction. So again, only taking from the connection, but not giving something in return. You want to make sure that you're developing this relationship, so that way they can help you, but you can also lend your skills or your services as well. Yeah, this kind of reiterates the point, just ensuring that the connection is mutually beneficial. So earlier I asked everyone to begin taking some notes. So what I would love for each of you now to do is write down first an example of maybe a technical skill or a service that you would be able to provide one of the people that you listed in your notes earlier. So take a quick moment right now to share an example. First, write it so that way you have something to maybe that you could work on. And then in the chat box, if you could share one or two examples, so that way some of your peers can also see as well. So I'm going to go ahead and briefly pause there to give you some time to write. All right. Now, I know some of you are writing or typing, so I'll give you a little bit of time. Please keep adding, because I'd love to share some of those with others. I'm going to provide a couple right now, but in a past experience where I provided an informational, one of my students asked to do an informational interview with me, which actually led into a job shadow. So she got a twofer. She got two in one. And so that young lady, at the end, when she asked for a job shadow, the student at UH actually asked, she let me know that she would be more than happy to volunteer with greeting students as well as working the registration for one of our events that happened to be coming up in that semester. And so she was able to volunteer her time. I believe she stayed with me for about 5 hours doing her job shadow, and then she volunteered an hour the next day for the event. So those are really great. That was a really great example of how she was able to help me out as well after I had offered her a job shadow. All right, so Jamie, if there are any examples, if you want to read a couple, and if not, let me know.
Yeah, I think a few people are still entering some, but I gave an example of, so I am not a graphic designer, but there is a free user-friendly software called Canva. And so that could be something that if there was a nonprofit and they were looking for something like that, that's something that you don't necessarily need a background in, but you could help them create some marketing pieces, because sometimes, especially if it was like a nonprofit, they might not have a marketing department. And so that's something that you could offer. Mm-hmm. We do have a person who put on here, they just happen to have 25 years of graphic design experience. So that's something that they could offer to maybe design something a little more intricate and intricate. And then proven success in executing large scale marketing and branding campaigns. So that's something that could be offered. Yeah. I can share my ideas, which are also can be very valuable, especially if somebody's looking specifically for like a student perspective or a demographic or an experience that you have, and run simulations for specific modeling. And then someone else mentioned like offer to do research or data entry. And so, yeah, especially if it's academic based and data entry, especially for like nonprofits or organizations, like, just whatever that could look like. But yeah, I'll let you respond to this as well.
No, totally. Those are all exceptional ones. And to whoever that graphic designer is, I hope I made you proud with this presentation. No, those are really great ones. I love hearing the different examples because it just goes to show you that there are all kinds of ways that you can provide a skill or service. So that, again, you're really developing these connections, because oftentimes I think we can somewhat lose sight of really developing them because we are in because we might be feeling pressured of wanting to find a job or an internship. And while that is true, for many people, it is going to be, in the long term, it's going to provide a lot of really great benefits if you're devoting and demonstrating that sincerity behind your reason for wanting to connect. So that's something that I want, hopefully, is a takeaway from today. So I'm here until 1 o'clock. So please feel free to stick around. And if you have any questions or comments that maybe I didn't get to today, for those of you who do feel like I answered everything and gave an excellent presentation and you're all set, I want to encourage everyone, follow at Coog Careers on any of your platforms. We've been posting a lot of our virtual events, services, updates. We share all kinds of things on our social media platforms. And then also visit and also bookmark. That's what I would say. Bookmark our website, uh.edu /UCS/ because we're posting constantly. All of our virtual workshops can be found there, virtual events, and any updates that might be relevant to you. If I did have any graduates, recent graduates from May, congratulations again. And don't forget that you get to keep using career services for free for 6 more months after you've graduated. So thank you to those who did stick around for the entire presentation. And then I'm going to leave it right there for anyone who has questions to please feel free to ask them. You can unmute now if you would like to jump in, or you can still ask it in the chat if you're not comfortable. And we will be here until 1, but otherwise, thank you so much, everyone.